Hey everybody, I am pre-recording this since we've been having so many Facebook issues with recording and stuff. Tonight I am reading Welcome to the Paradise, and it's by J. Morgan Woodall, and it came out Valentine's Day. I read it and had a fit over it and told him I was putting him on the schedule, so here we are. And it is a short story. It won't take you hour and a half to read it. So I'm not going to read a lot today, but I'm going to get you good and teased up and ready to go. Um, you might need your hot flash kit and any other essentials you might need if you get my drift. Excuse me. All of a sudden I'm choked up here. Okay. So, welcome to the paradise. There! She let out an excited yelp, pointing at the green exit ramp sign. That's the one! I couldn't help but smile as I veered off 75 and down the off ramp, leaving the NASCAR rescue every car for themselves interstate system and dropping down the street level. Urban Metro Atlanta. I glanced over at my beautiful wife of 15 years, Shelby. She was excited as a kid on Christmas morning. Her face glowed like a neon sign in the window of a roadside honky tonk. Her beautiful mane of thick, medium brown hair was silhouetted against a brilliant orange sunset in the window behind her. Her smile was wide and dazzling, her teeth as white as Christmas snow. Even closing in on 2 decades of marriage, it still made me feel good to elicit the kind of happiness in her. But as I came to the red light at the bottom of the ramp, I felt my senses tingle, heightened by fear and apprehension. For a late 30s couple from the mountains of North Georgia, my mountains, the big city always held a certain villainous mystique. This was where all the crime, the drugs, and the violence happened. It always put me on a high alert mode, especially when I had family with me. If I was guarded, Shelby seemed obvious to any big city dangers. She enjoyed the bright lights, towering concrete, and steel monstrosities of commerce that rose above us now as we made our way through the heart of Hot Atlanta itself. Whether a Braves game, concert, or business function of some sorts, she always looked upon a big city excursion as a grand adventure. Who could blame her, except for my 4 years in Athens attending the university? Go Dogs. Our entire lives had been spent in the same small town in the Appalachian foothills in northern Georgia. Once notorious for moonshiners and bootleggers, it was a region still decades behind the rest of the country, but we were working hard on remedying that. A writer and an entrepreneur, I convinced several local alcohol aficionados to form a legal moonshine enterprise several years back. For the first several years, it had been a labor of love, with us struggling to keep the lights on, the doors open, and the old steel hands from killing each other over differences about recipes and ingredients. But perseverance and patience were starting to pay off, and the last couple of years we'd actually made a profit and orders were increasing daily to the point we were going to have to expand production and hire more people. That was one of the reasons we were celebrating tonight. I'd been wanting to do this for quite some time, several years at least. Now I could finally afford it and no expense would be spared. It was to be the most special Valentine's gift I'd ever given to my beloved Shelby. A night at the Paradise Atlanta. Look there! She squealed with delight as the legendary building suddenly appeared before us, still several blocks away. She clapped her hands in delight and put her fingertips to her lips the way she did when excitement got the best of her. The Paradise had been built in 1885 and had somehow survived all the revitalization that so many other historic structures have fell victim to over the years. 8 stories high, with a brick and hewn stone facade, its street level windows had gray granite arches and keystones contrasted against the fire red brick. Balconies with ornately decorated wrought iron railing overlooked a sidewalk cafe on Peachtree. But it was the main entrance at the corner of Peachtree and Albany that drew your attention. A round medieval tower soared the entire 8 stories of the building, capped by a conical roof and topped with a flagpole from which Old Glory proudly waved. At the bottom of the tower, a 2 storied arched doorway served as the grand entrance. I drove into the small circular drive on the corner where the bellhops waited to unload our luggage. I hadn't even opened the door before a young man in a gray uniform trimmed in scarlet was standing there. Good evening, good evening, sir, he said with a smile that was genuine and warm. Welcome to the Paradise Hotel. How may I assist you today? On the other side of the vehicle, another bellhop had opened the door to allow Shelby to step away from the car. He offered his hand as she stepped out. Very classy. I popped the hatch so they could unload our bags and gave the bellhop the keys. Walking around the car, I couldn't help but grin at Shelby, who stared open-mouthed up at the splendorous architecture. I gave her a smile, trying to hide my own excitement at being here. Welcome, Cinderella. Well, come on, Cinderella. Your castle awaits. I gave her a kiss on the cheek and offered my arm, and bellhops opened the door to the paradise. God, I'm so excited I can't hardly read. I love this story, y'all. The lobby of the Paradise Atlanta was like something out of an old Bogart movie. The floor was polished green marble, swirled with shades of creamy white and light gray. A round red velvet banquette, trimmed in gold, centered the waiting area. Above it hung a magnificent wedding cake chandelier containing hundreds of bulbs. The check-in counters were paneled in rich mahogany. On the walls high above, encircling the room, richly colored murals depicted scenes from Atlanta's storied history. It's like something out of a fairy tale. Shelby was in awe, and I had to admit she wasn't too far off. The man at the counter was a pleasant African-American fellow in his late 50s, with a shaved head and graying goatee. He had warm eyes and a comforting smile, and looked crisp in his black blazer he wore, the hotel's crest embroidered on the livery. Welcome to the Paradise Atlanta. My name is Cedric. How may I be of service? Reservation for Peterson? Cedric's fingers played rapidly across the keyboard, paused, played another staccato. Oh, yes. Mr. and Mrs. Robert Peterson, staying one night. I see you booked the honeymoon suite. Excellent choice, sir. And for dinner, may I recommend our restaurant? The Dahlonega Moon is a 5-star establishment just like our hotel. He picked up 2 small cards and handed them to me with our keys. These are good for 2 free desserts, and I recommend the Valentine's Day specials tonight. I promise you won't be disappointed. Just give those to your server when you're ready to order. Wow, thank you, sir, I said graciously, awed by the man's kindness. This truly was starting out to be a wonderful night. Enjoy your evening at the Paradise Atlanta, folks, and let us know if you need anything. The honeymoon suite was a spectacle in itself. A heart-shaped bed with red-stained sheets adorned with the bedroom. Above it, the entire ceiling was nothing but a mirror. Holy shit! Did I really want to see myself naked in my mid-30s having sex? Yeah, baby. A jacuzzi hot tub also came with the room, and Shelby wasted no time piling into it after pouring herself a glass of complimentary champagne. I decided to make myself a drink with the stuff I'd brought from the house. To be honest, I thought champagne was nasty. The whiskey was strong and took the edge off the drive down, relaxing me before dinner. I thought about joining Shelby in the jacuzzi, but opted for climbing onto the bed. It was surprisingly comfortable, and I kicked my shoes off and picked up the remote, clicking on the flat screen TV on. Don't go to sleep, Shelby called out. I made dinner reservations for 8. I'm not. I acted all defensive, but she knew me too well. Once I got still and horizontal and some alcohol in me, it was only a matter of time. I rolled onto my side and gazed at her. Valentine's Day. A good time to reminisce and remind myself just what a lucky man I was to be married to the beautiful woman soaking in that bubbly cauldron across the room. We known each other since grade school, and I think I'd been in love with her ever since she knocked me down that day on the playground for telling her she had cooties. Eventually, we went steady during our junior high years, and those were the best years of my childhood. But unfortunately, she, as girls sometimes do, matured a bit faster than me, both physically and mentally. While I was still digging Star Wars and Warcraft, she started getting noticed by upperclassmen. I guess it was only natural for her to be flattered by the attention. She was filling out into a beautiful young woman, and I was still a scrawny young geek with big ears and zits. It wasn't long till she kicked me to the curb. She went out for majorettes, and not long after was dating jocks with leather jackets and jacked up four-wheel drives. Such is life, I guess, and we drifted apart, moving in different social circles until we graduated and I moved on to college. The most important thing I learned after 4 years in Athens was that I never wanted to go back to the hick town once I got out of back to that hick town once I got out of school. I planned on moving to Atlanta and becoming a writer, like Faulkner or Hemingway, or Grizzard, maybe. But one weekend, while visiting my folks, I happened into the dollar store for a pack of gum and ran smack dab into Shelby. Seems life had dealt her a bit of a bad hand. Her fiance had just run off with the accounts payable clerk down at the Chevrolet dealership. Such things were humiliating in a small town where everyone knows when you fart but what you had for supper last night. I felt bad for her, so I took her for a cup of coffee down at the Waffle Hut. We got to talking, reminiscing about old times. Next thing you know, I'm back home, married, we got 2 kids, and the rest is history. So much for being the next Grizzard. And I wouldn't change a thing. I told you not to fall asleep. Damn it, I must have fallen asleep. I came slowly awake to the realization that my lovely bride was atop me, straddling my waist. She was dressed for dinner. Her sexy little black number hiked up. She was rocking slowly back and forth, and gradually I realized she was rubbing her wet pussy up and down my rock-hard cock. Damn, baby, that feels good, I groaned out. I squirmed around, trying to work myself up into her, but she was having none of it. Oh no! She moved back, preventing my entry. You were a bad boy. You fell asleep, and now we're late for dinner. So no nookie for you. Oh, babe. Oh, babe, I whined. It's a holiday. We're supposed to be relaxing. Well, I'm hungry. So you'll have to be punished. She was using my cock as a rubbing post again, her eyes closed in ecstasy. Gosh, she looked so hot. Punish me, baby, I encouraged her. Punish me bad. Yes. Her voice was a horse whisper. Does that pussy feel good on your cock? Oh, yes, baby. So good. Of course, it felt a lot better if I was in it. I want you to think about it all through supper. How good it felt. Oh, fuck. She shuddered, her climax rocking her body. Damn, she was sexy as fuck when she got off like that. There wasn't a porn star yet that came hotter, any hotter. God, that was hot, baby. Oh, wait a minute, that's her. God, that was hot, baby. She patted out. Thank you. Oh, you think that was hot, do you? I asked, an eyebrow raised wickedly. Now I want you to put your panties on without wiping that wet pussy. I want you to sit in that juice all through supper and think about what I'm going to do when we get back here. Now, how's that for naughty? She sighed heavily, a satisfied smile on her face, her eyes half shuttered with desire. Oh, baby, you better feed me good. The Valentine's Day special featured a filet stuffed with crab meat and a topped with a béarnaise sauce. With the trimmings, the free dessert, and a bottle of wine, it was truly the perfect meal for the evening. My darling Shelby had been splendid in her elegant dress, a black body-hugging little number trimmed tastefully in gold that accented her ample bosom, and sported a daring split up the right leg that stopped at the upper thigh. After dinner, we decided to stop in at the bar for a nightcap. In the bar, the male customers were instantly drawn to her stunning looks and shapely figure. One young man in particular seemed utterly taken by her. Sitting at the end of the bar with a frosted mug of draft, he tried not to be too obvious. He was failing miserably. You have a secret admirer, I whispered to her, a sly smile on my face. Get out of here, she blushed. I'm not kidding. The kid at the end of the bar can't keep his eyes off you. Is that so? Her eyebrow raised. Check him out. You might like what you see. I might just do that. She leaned forward and put her elbow on the table, resting her jaw on the palm of her hand, giving me a sultry look that oozed sexuality. I felt myself swell under the table. It was a game we'd played many times. Several years back, with the kids at her parents' house, we decided to watch some porn to liven up our night. It was only then that I'd stumbled onto the fact that she harbored a secret fantasy. A fantasy that involved two men pleasuring her. A threesome. I have to admit, at first it had taken me aback a bit. I tried to put it out of my head. I tried not to think of it. It was disturbing. Not only because I knew the thought of it turned her on, but as bad as I hated to admit it, it turned me on too. I tried not to let on to Shelby. I didn't know how she would take it. Would she be offended? Would she want to actually try it for real? How would I react if she did? It was hot to fantasize about. But what if it were to become a reality? How would I handle her enjoying such an erotic episode? Listening to the moans of pleasure and watching the writhing of her body as it responded to someone else's touch. I thought I would eventually shake myself of a notion most men would not even consider. Yet, it took a hold of me like kudzu, its twisted tendrils entwining around my imagination. I began to imagine it more and more. I got online and searched for the videos portraying such decadent acts. Toys had always been a part of our sex life, especially dildos and vibrators. I began to imagine her 9-inch vibrating monstrosity was another man's hard cock plowing her hot wetness while I watched. I fantasized about her telling me how good it felt, how it filled her completely. Finally, after much soul searching, I admitted it all to her one night during an especially lively session. I had no idea how she would take it, but much to my very pleasant surprise, it made it even livelier. After that, it became our naughty little secret, a delicious fantasy only the two of us shared. Out for a nice dinner or a few drinks in a club, I drew her attention to some handsome stud. As she cut her eyes to drink him in, we talked in hushed, excited whispers about how hot it would be to have him join us for the evening. Of course, It was all talk, and we'd leave alone to return home to a night of red hot passion. And now we played it once again here in the hotel bar. The piano music was romantic. We'd just had an amazing dinner, and the drinks were just right. So far, the night had been fabulous. Perhaps that's the reason I said what I said next.
Why don't we invite him over to the table for a drink?
It came out in a voice a lot higher than intended. Damn, too damn nervous. I suddenly realized my mouth was dry and I reached for my glass. With one gulp, I downed the bourbon and coke. Oh, yeah, right. Shelby laughed and waved me off, not realizing at first that I was serious. It took her a second before the look in my eyes registered with her. The laugh ended abruptly. Shit, you're serious?
I shrugged. Why not? What's it gonna hurt?
He's a total stranger, she hissed back, obviously not liking the idea at all.
What are you gonna...
What are we going to say to him? Come over here and sit a bit so we can use you to get it all worked up?
You do have a point,
I conceded. I think it's a bit much. Her skepticism was obvious. Somehow I had to overcome it. My empty glass caught my eye and an idea hit me. Perhaps there was a way yet.
How about this, love?
What's that? She looked at me warily. She'd been married to me long enough to spot a flanking movement.
I need a drink. You sashay your sexy ass up to the bar and get another round. Maybe smile at the boy or something. We'll call it even.
She sighed and rolled her eyes. Bobby Lee Peterson, you got a one-track mind. Still, a smile seeped into that disbelieving look, and those blue eyes sparkled with mirth. Okay, one more drink and we're calling it a night, mister. I think you have reached your limit. She gave me a wink and a kiss and collected both glasses. She stood and I stood with her. Yeah, my mama taught me some manners. My heart swelled with pride as the half dozen or so men in the bar instantly took notice too. That dinner dress and that cleavage were like an eye magnet. I had seen her in some sexy dresses before, but this one by far was the queen mother of them all. Walking to the bar, she put a little extra swing in her hips. Oh yeah, that's my girl. God, after over 20 years, she still struck the fire as hot now as when she had way back in the halls of Herschel Walker High. Much to my very pleasant surprise, she sauntered casually to the same end of the bar where the young man sat, nursing his beer. I couldn't help but grin as his eyes widened slightly. Now that she was right there in front of him, she set our dirty glasses down and gave the bartender our order. While she waited, she turned to him and smiled. Hello, she said sweetly. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day to you too, ma'am,
he replied, raising his glass. She cocked her head curiously. What's a handsome young man like you doing sitting in a bar all alone tonight? He was indeed a looker with cobalt blue eyes, thick sandy blonde hair piled high atop his head, the sides shaved fashionably. His young face was smooth shaven, his skin unblemished, and still a bit boyish. He had full, almost feminine lips, giving him the look of a rock musician. He grinned sheepishly.
Had a little spat with my girlfriend.
Aw, you poor dear, she cooed sympathetically. You should have sent her some flowers today. Roses work wonders, you know.
He shrugged. Well, we ain't really that serious. I think she's seeing someone else now.
Well, bless your heart, she cooed with genuine concern.
Aw, that's okay. You know what they say, when one door closes, another opens.
She nodded. That's usually very much the case. She had to admit she was quite taken with the kid. He was handsome, sexy, slightly brooding, and a bit vulnerable, which tugged at the maternal instinct only a mom could feel. That and the age difference gave the attraction a bit of a taboo feel, but surprisingly, she found it nowhere near as repulsive as she might have thought it. She wondered if that made her weird or bad. Not that it mattered. What mattered was the delicious tingling between her legs now. She couldn't help but squeeze them together, savoring that familiar sensation. The bartender brought the drinks, and she was surprised at how disappointed she was. She found herself wanting to continue the conversation, but to stay now would be a tad inappropriate. I guess I better get back to my husband, she said, trying not to sound disappointed. She offered her hand. It's been truly nice meeting you.
Justin, ma'am.
He took her hand, and tiny bolts of electricity raced through her body. I'm Shelby, Justin. So nice to meet you. She turned to the bartender. Sir, put this young man's next round on our tab, please.
Ma'am, that's not necessary.
Justin started to protest, but was quickly hushed. Young man, you have a lot to learn. She put a determined hand on her hip. The young man must have indeed been green when it came to some of the basics in dealing with women, but he was obviously smart enough to recognize a lost cause when he saw one. He gratefully acquiesced.
Thank you, Shelby. Happy Valentine's Day.
Returning to her table, she set her drinks down, a sly smile on her face. Well, I tried to hide the excitement I felt from watching their interaction. She lifted her drink to her lips, but before taking a sip, she looked at me with those bedroom eyes, a naughty smile on those glossy red lips. If I were to ever fuck another man, baby, he would definitely make the final cut.
Really?
I asked, my hopes and cock rising simultaneously.
He must have made quite an impression.
He made me wet. She leaned into me and whispered, her eyes almost closed now, as if the confession was a juicy, ripe, forbidden fruit to be savored.
Did he now?
My hand found her knee, sliding to the inside, to her inner thigh, the fabric of her stockings feeling silky, slick against the tips of my fingers. Yes, she breathed out, her eyes closed as she focused on my hand. I wondered just whose hand she was imagining it was. Well, that's good, I said, a sudden twinkle in my eyes. I glanced over her shoulder.
Because he's coming this way.
What? Her eyes opened instantly, and she was upright so quick one would have thought a bolt of lightning had struck her. Her first instinct was to immediately pat her hair down, making sure it was still in place. I could have saved her the trouble. It was still as beautiful and full as it had been when we'd come down for dinner hours ago. The young man made his way tentatively to our table. I could tell he was a down-to-earth, humble kid. He wasn't dressed sloppily. He didn't have metal sticking out of his face. A small, tastefully done tattoo of a fairy adorned his right bicep, but nothing extreme. He looked like the type of young man you'd want to pick up your daughter on a Friday night.
Well, hello there.
I was the first to speak, sensing I would have to be the one to break the ice.
Hello, sir,
he said, a bit shyly, offering his hand. Good manners.
I'm Justin, just in case.
He worked to keep his eyes on me, but I could tell they wanted badly to divert to Shelby.
I just wanted to come over and say I really appreciated the beer, sir. It was mighty generous of you and your wife.
Well, Justin, you need to thank Shelby here. I made it easy for him. It was all her doing.
Thanks, ma'am. Again.
His face lit up as he turned to her. He was smitten bad. Oh, honey, you're welcome. She waved it off nonchalantly. Just consider it my Valentine's gift.
Mighty sweet of you, ma'am.
Shelby, not ma'am, she corrected him with a flirty smile. I'm not your mother.
Better listen to her, son. I spoke up. She doesn't cotton to her orders not being followed.
That's right, she gave me a stern look. Best you remember your own words, Mr. Peterson. I sensed the youngster enjoyed our light-hearted banter and was hesitant to leave. I couldn't blame him. He was probably going home to an empty apartment on the night we'd celebrated love and romance. And here we were, all laughing and cutting up and fixing to go up to our room and have hot celebratory sex. Gosh, what's up with these big words tonight? Somehow, it didn't seem right. I almost felt guilty. I didn't want him to leave either. The way he and Shelby were looking at each other, something told me there was once in a lifetime chemistry working here. I knew it was now or never. If I let this moment pass, I'd probably never see it again. Hell, what was the worst that could happen? Either he says no or Shelby definitely says no, and I drastically overestimated her interest. And that would be bad. Real damn bad. Could end up with nobody getting any loving tonight. My gut told me it was worth a shot. My chances were a bit better than even. Draining my glass of the last of the liquid courage, I took a deep breath and went for it.
Say, Justin,
I said, trying to keep my voice even.
We're fixing to retire to the room and have some drastically cheaper spirits. Care to join us for a nightcap?
I could immediately feel Shelby's eyes burning to me. I turned to meet her "what the fuck are you doing" look. I held her gaze, not backing down as I gave her a raised eyebrow, matching her expression with my want to live a little dangerously glance.
Oh no, I don't think so.
The young man started to decline, but I could see his heart wasn't in it. He and Shelby couldn't keep their eyes off each other.
It's Valentine's night. I know you two want to spend some time together.
The night's still young.
We were planning on a little toddy when we got back to the room anyway, weren't we, Shelby?
It was then that she finally realized the gravity of the situation. I saw it in her eyes. The very moment she actually realized I was serious about this happening, that I wanted to move beyond the dirty talk, the fantasizing. I was tired of the teasing, the innuendo, her whispering forbidden desires into my ear as I made love to her. The ball was now in her court, her choice to make. I smiled softly, passing a silent message that whatever the decision was, I would respect it. She looked back to the young man. It'd been hot flirting with him to make eyes at him, knowing he was attracted to her, an older woman. She wasn't going to deny that she didn't feel the same. The ample wetness soaking the crotch of her panties testified to that. It was indeed hot to have a live subject to stimulate you instead of a video or pictures. But it was still just window shopping, all part of the game, an escalation. Yes, but still harmless. But now I was wanting to wade off into dangerous waters, her stomach filled with butterflies and uneasiness. It reminded her of being on a giant high dive and standing on the edge, afraid to take the plunge, but afraid to turn back after letting things get this far. After all, it had been her fantasy that had started this. I was just trying to make it come true for her. But what if it came true and it went horribly wrong? What if it were a big disappointment? What if she liked it more than I thought she should? What if it all backfired horribly? What if she moaned a bit louder or came a touch harder with the young lad? Would I take offense? Get my feelings hurt? Sometimes the best fantasies are the ones that never become reality. An adventurous friend had told me after a clumsy bisexual experimentation, it never happens like it does in the books or videos. But now she knew we'd always wonder if we didn't. She had to admit it. It was indeed exciting. The drinks, her infatuation. The drinks, her infatuation with the boy, the fact that she was already aroused, plus knowing we were headed up to the room to fuck the night away, probably all had a lot to do with her reluctance to just simply squash the crazy notion in the head. All right, big boy, let's play. I'm all in if you are. She looked to Justin and smiled. Sure, sounds wonderful. And that's where I'm going to end because I just think that's a good place to end. I think you guys need to go get the book and figure out what happens after that. Oh my gosh, it is so hot. So, I hope you enjoyed it. J. Morgan Woodall. It's called Welcome to the Paradise, a Valentine's Day memento. So if you're doing it on Amazon, just put in J. Morgan Woodall, and I think there's like 5 books up there that popped up when I did that. I don't know, but it's the one that's not so creepy looking. J. Morgan's got good books, though. I mean, yeah, he's got good books. Okay, so go get it. And I will talk to you guys later. Happy reading.